not terror-related. Some people do argue that this is a case of domestic terrorism. How do you differentiate this to people at home?
Well, we have to establish what his motivation is first, and there's motivating factors associated with terrorism other than a distraught person just intending to cause mass casualty. Before we label with that, it'll be a matter of process.
Have you found any information at this point that could yield insight into what that motive was?
No, we have not.
Documents or computers or anything?
No, we have not. We have not located any items within the room or his house at this point.
Before entering his room, was there any verbal commands or orders given?
Yes, ma'am. It was a matter of normal practice. And whenever we use a dynamic entry.
Sheriff, was there anything else in the hotel room that made you think, aside from the number of weapons, that made you think he had been there for a while, or?
No, we have information he's been there since the 28th of September. So I have no idea as to whether he prevented the housekeepers from entering the room or not. That's just a matter of continued investigation. All right, thank you very much. We'll provide you an update probably in the next 2 hours. Thank you.
Sheriff Joe Lombardo, he has become the face of this unbelievable, unfolding, horrendous national tragedy from Las Vegas overnight. New information there, police confirming that the suspect, age 64, Stephen Paddock, was dead in his room as police entered that room. Also new information now, 10 rifles found inside the room when police finally accessed it. So here is what we have here, a country music concert, now the scene of the deadliest mass shooting in modern American history, and this is just part of what the eyewitnesses, some 22,000, witnessed themselves. Clearly the sound of automatic fire that went for minutes. It must have seemed forever to so many there. A man opening fire for several minutes from 32 floors above the Mandalay Bay Hotel, targeting this massive concert crowd below. At least 50 are dead. Hundreds more wounded as tens of thousands of concert goers ran for their lives. Again, as I mentioned, that suspect shot himself as police entered the room. Good morning. Ongoing coverage continues here. What a way to begin the week here. I'm Bill Hemmer, live at America's Newsroom, and to everybody watching for the past several hours in all likelihood. This is an absolute tragedy as we witness this together. And Sandra, welcome to you.
Thanks, Bill. Good morning to you. It's been a horrific night as we've watched this news unfold. Hello, everyone. I'm Sandra Smith. Here's what we know right now. The carnage unfolding toward the end of a country music festival on the Las Vegas Strip. At least 50 are now pronounced dead. And as we just heard from the Las Vegas police, over 400 more wounded and transported to area hospitals. 2 off-duty police officers are among those killed, while 2 Las Vegas police officers were wounded. The shooter has been identified, as Bill just said, 64-year-old Stephen Paddock, who we also just learned had been in his room at the Mandalay Bay Resort since September 28th, he just revealed. Who knows if he had ever left that room or didn't let maid staff in that room, but that's what we were just told, and we were also told he was known to local police, and it was just confirmed he died at the scene. He took his own life as police entered his room, Bill.
Multiple weapons, Sandra, 10 rifles in total found inside the room, fired hundreds of rounds into the crowd. Police say a female person of interest who may have been with him at the time has been located. They say, however, she is not involved in this. Witnesses thinking at first the gunshots were fireworks, but that ended quickly. Thousands scrambling for safety as they saw the wounded dropping to the ground in front of them.
One girl had shrapnel pot on marks on the side of her face, and she said it appeared the bullets were coming from Mandalay Bay into the concert, and they were just dropping. The people were just dropping.
We heard a pop. It sounded like just a firework, something that you think normally happens in Vegas. And then it just started going pop, 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 pop.
Everybody started running, and I'm like, because I was just getting back, I was like, what's going on? So everybody ran behind, like we had like a barrier, you know, like a back bar area where we kept all of our storage. And everybody started running back there and diving on the floor, and we could just hear the shots. And I dove behind a ladder and I pulled a big speaker over myself. All I could think about was my kids.
Senior correspondent Adam Housley is live in Las Vegas, where, Adam, you were there to cover a different story, and now you are covering the largest mass shooting in U.S. history. What is the latest on the ground there?
You know, Sandra, it's hard to even explain some of the stuff that we've come across here over the course of the last few hours. We do know that a body was found in front of the Tropicana. We didn't realize it, but we walked past 3 bodies. A quarter mile down the street, they were on top of tables. People were using whatever they could to get people out. They used tables. They used a freezer. They had wheels. They used those barriers that you'll see at events that are metal, that are, they put them together and piecemeal them together to keep people out of a certain area. They were turning them on their sides and using them as basically a makeshift way to get bodies out. We've been told stories of cars driving up, people just throwing people in the back and driving off to the hospital. The numbers are going to fluctuate. The sheriff said 400 injured and at least 50 dead. Those numbers are going to fluctuate because people were taken in private cars to places. That's the 400 is what was transported. So we know a number of people that were taken on their own. Just again, anybody who could help was beginning to help. The stories from inside the concert are all very similar early on. It sounded like fireworks. Every single person said the same thing. You could even see when Jason Aldean was singing that it took them a little bit too to realize. A firefighter we met from Los Angeles who was here with his family celebrating a birthday. At first he thought it might be fireworks or maybe some audio issues, and then he saw someone go down next to him and he realized this is not that. This is something much worse. People hiding under the stage and with such horror that people were walking by us just bloody, and it wasn't their own blood. It was people's blood, strangers they'd never met. One young guy was taking his shirt off and took other parts of his clothes off and put them over people's faces who had died inside. We're here outside. The sun's starting to come up here in Vegas. It was a Sunday evening at 10:15. This happened at night. A lot of people in Las Vegas didn't even realize this has happened. They're waking up to this news because a Sunday night, Vegas has millions of people that don't live on the Strip, that were away and preparing to go to work this morning and now waking up to hear this horrible news. We do know people have come from all over the country here. Southern California had a large number of people come to this concert, as far away as Alaska and Canada. We know there's people still looking for their loved ones, and there's still people in hotels nearby being interviewed. Those numbers are starting to go down as people are being released back to go back to their hotel or back to their homes or wherever they happen to go. There is assistance being offered for those who have no place to go. We do know that there's a lot of cars, a lot of places, a lot of things back over here on my right shoulder. If we can come back here live, we can show you where we're situated, which is right across the street, basically in a parking lot of a church, which is right directly adjacent to the actual location where the shooting took place, guys. And if you look over my shoulder, you'll see all these cars over there. Those cars were concert goers. And there's now obviously no ability to get them out at this point, but it gives you kind of an idea. I mean, people left frantically. Also, you'll see the stage itself, the actual fabric on the side of it waving in the wind. It shows you there was no protection whatsoever for those on stage because basically you could go right through, a gunshot can go right through a piece of fabric. But you also can see in the distance the Mandalay, and notice there are no obstructions. There are none. The Luxor is also across the street a bit to the north. There are obstructions there. There's an obelisk, there's trees, but the Mandalay clearly has no obstructions. And when you talk to law enforcement, they'll tell you they do believe, while this investigation goes forward, they do believe that this was planned pretty far in advance. The Mandalay, obviously a very popular place to stay for this concert since it's right across the street. This man had had the room for several days. He'd had obviously 10 rifles. This was planned. So now the idea is to map this all out as the investigation continues behind me and the bodies are still being removed from the location behind me. The investigation goes into the online profile. It goes into who did he know? How did he get the weapons? Those are all the things that law enforcement's looking at this hour. The FBI is on scene to help in that process because this is a very large crime scene in the sense of just the number of people that have to be interviewed. I mean, 22,000 potential witnesses, and again, 400 injured that we know of at this hour, and more than 50 dead. It's been a night of horror here in Las Vegas, and something that when you walk down the street over here, Giles Street and Reno Avenue, there's bloody footprints. right here. We walked up, and you see bloody footprints and bodies. It's obviously a very difficult situation for a lot of people, guys.
And Adam, as the police chief just told us, the family reunions are still taking place at this hour. He provided a number to reach out if you're still looking for a loved one. And the coroner's office also has provided a number, 866-535-5654. We are still at that stage where many people are trying to identify their loved ones on the ground there in Las Vegas. Adam Housley, thank you for that reporting.
It was about 8 hours ago when Las Vegas police got the first phone call of shots fired. Kevin McMahill is undersheriff of Las Vegas Metropolitan Police by telephone. Sir, good morning to you. I want you to tell our audience what you know about Stephen Paddock at this hour.
Yeah, hello. So the answer is we don't know a whole lot. Pardon my voice, I've been talking a lot, but the reality is that we have not been able to find really anything to indicate what led him on this killing spree and bring this reign of destruction to Las Vegas. And so we have not yet been able to uncover any state, local, or federal systems, any negative interactions with police. I can tell you that he had a number of rifles and scopes and a significant amount of ammunition. However, that as we speak, we've just gained access into the room with the search warrant, and so obviously, you always have to make sure that in these types of situations that there's nothing booby-trapped or any of those types of devices that may have been left for law enforcement. So we continue to go about this in a very careful manner, and not to lose any more life. And so we'll continue moving through that, and obviously we'll be providing many more updates on what it is that we found specifically, and hopefully be able to answer some of the questions as to why.
You're coming up on dawn right now, sunrise in a matter of moments there. How was he able to shoot outside the window? Did he break a window? Was it removed, or was it simply open, sir?
It looked like he probably shot right through it. As your reporter described, this is, you can imagine, 32 stories up, and he literally had the best vantage point you could have of the view of that actual arena that was across the street. A very large open area with upwards of 23,000 people in it. And he just started that automatic weapons fire and killed and injured a whole lot of people. And so we're trying to get to the bottom of why. But like I said, it'll be a matter of days probably before we really begin to get all of these answers.
What was it, Paddock's name on the room, and was it his name for the last 4 days, sir?
I believe yes. That the answer to both of those questions was yes.
And the sheriff delivered this interesting information, too, about no derogatory information, is the way he characterized it, with law enforcement in Las Vegas. Can you add anything more to that, sir?
No, I think that's just, typically you expect that you're going to find some sort of grievance or some sort of letter or something, and we still may. But as we sit here right now, as I'm talking to you, I cannot provide that information because we have not yet found that.
And just to push you a little bit on this, I know your jurisdiction is Las Vegas, but apparently he lived 85, 90 miles in the northeast in Mesquite, Nevada. Do you know if police there have any record of criminal activity or correspondence with police?
I am told they do not either. They have not had any criminal activity in Mesquite, but like I said, we check local, state, and federal systems, and we don't find anything anywhere.
Sir, our best to you. Thoughts
Thank you very
and
much.
prayers and everything else we can send your way. Kevin McMahill, thank you.
We need it all.
Yeah, you bet. We're just at the very beginning of this, but thank you very much for your time, sir. Kevin McMahill, Undersheriff in Las Vegas. Sandra.
All right, thanks, Bill. We're going to bring in Daniel Linsky now. He was an incident commander for the Boston Marathon bombing and former Boston Superintendent-in-Chief of Police. He was actually at a conference for security and law enforcement at Mandalay Bay recently. Daniel, what can you tell us about this particular building? Right now, the big question is how this shooter managed to open fire from that 32nd floor.
It's right in the middle of the Strip. It's a great conference facility. We were there with police chiefs around the country talking about issues like this, community engagement strategies and others, trying to figure out how we improve law enforcement. The sheriff was there from L.A., greeted us all. It's kind of surreal that watching the photographs and video of that same location. It's you know, any hotel in America, people carry up their own bags, or even if the bell staff assist you, there is no security screening in a hotel. And the weapon system he had would have taken the windows out in a matter of seconds and allowed him the ability to have a killing field across the street from that concert venue.
Daniel, that is a question some are starting to ask in the wake of this horrific shooting. Should there be more security with people coming into these hotels? This particular hotel, 43 stories tall, 3,300 rooms, 135,000 square feet. Should bags be x-rayed? Should there be security changes?
I think once Las Vegas is able to get off its feet and to deal with the trauma and tragedy the city is dealing with, the first responders, the community, the visitors are dealing with, then there'll be a review as to what happened and what could have prevented or mitigated this. It's certainly something that's going to be looked at. We didn't take our shoes off before Richard Reed tried to attack us with a shoe bomb.
You indeed, Daniel. And I want to also bring to you what we just learned at the top of the hour from the police chief there in Las Vegas, as they learned that the shooter, Stephen Paddock, 64 years old, now dead, checked into the Mandalay Bay Resort September 28th. What likely is the process the FBI, as he said, is vital in the assistance of this now investigation? What likely are they doing now? Pulling all the cameras from this resort? What is the process like?
They'll be looking at cameras, access control every time he went into his room, who he was with, who he might have been speaking with, who he arrived, who he had conversation with. If he truly was in on his own, they'll be able to identify that pretty quickly. They're going to go back and rebuild his history. What was going on in his life last week, yesterday, the month before, 2 months before? Where did the guns come from? Were they initially designed as full automatic weapons? Were they adapted? These particular weapons, you can tell from the cyclical fire rates, those were belt-fed or drum-fed.
They said that all they could find was a citation several years ago. Could there still be more in the shooter's history yet to be revealed?
There can be a lot. There's a lot that isn't in law enforcement files. Perhaps there were mental health issues where the person had been commitments, civil commitments that we wouldn't find in a CJIS system. I think law enforcement was saying that they knew the individual, wanted to assure people that they had the shooter and thought it was one person responsible. I don't know that they were saying he was known to law enforcement with a reputation of criminality. They're going to find out exactly. We're going to be going back and interviewing all the people in his life, people who saw him along the way, people who might have seen him in other hotels or at gun ranges. We'll repiece exactly what was going on in his life to bring him to this location to unleash this attack.
Daniel, the Ariana Grande concert in England is just not too far in recent history, and now this. Does this change the way we operate as Americans?
Every one of these events makes us think about how do we do things better? Is there something else we can do? How do you protect yourself in an open concert venue surrounded by high-rise buildings? Well, it may be that we can never quite protect every risk and mitigate all risk. However, you should be going out with your family, with your loved ones, anywhere, whether it's a restaurant, a theater, the mall, and have in mind a thought process to what you're going to do in an emergency. Know where the emergency exits are. Know what you're going to do, because when the crisis hits, your body has a fight, flight, or freeze reaction. You want to get out of freeze and get into the flight reaction as quickly as possible. And having pre-planned and having that conversation with your loved ones about what you're going to do can actually save lives and can give you the benefit of the doubt of someone who's going to freeze during that moment of panic and terror.
Daniel Linsky, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
This was a 3-day concert, and we were in the middle of the final performer on the final night when shots rang out, 10:10 local time last night in Las Vegas. Tweet from the president a bit earlier today with the following from the White House, quote, "My warmest condolences and sympathies to the victims and families of the terrible Las Vegas shooting. God bless you," end tweet. We expect to hear and see from the president. He has an event at 11 a.m. Eastern time. We're getting guidance from the White House that we may hear from him before then, so we'll stand by for more information on that. Bob Massey, colleague with me now, Fox News legal analyst and resident of Las Vegas for more than 40 years. And Bob, It's a town that draws visitors from all over the world, but as you well know, Las Vegas really is a small town in so many ways for people like you and others who make home there. What are you hearing? What are you picking up only 8 hours and some 10 minutes into this?
Well, it surely still is the last frontier, even though it's a growing city and a building city. It's just, there's a somberness here, Bill, that I've never experienced. I was saying earlier that the way I found out is my youngest son called me and said that good friends of my oldest son and his wife, thank God my kids weren't there, but Breton and Jesse were at the concert. And of course, we all were in a panic. And about an hour, maybe an hour and a half later, I finally got in touch with Breton, and he described to me, he was home safe by then, but described to me what he went through. And it's so chilling to hear what they went through. And when you know people, Bill, that you spend holidays with and with their children, it brings it home to a point that it personalizes it. So I mean, it's very tough, Bill. It's very, very tough for everybody.
Listening to the sheriff about 30 minutes ago, Joseph Lombardo, as he was introducing others, he mispronounced a gentleman's name and said, "I get you confused with your brother." And I think that's the sense you get about how close that community is. And we reflect on that now, Bob. And I mean, this is a marker, and you wonder, you talk about the great western frontier, that's what drew people like you out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to move to Las Vegas 4 decades ago.
It's a very misunderstood city. It's a city where people get up and go to work like any place else. The kids play soccer on the weekends, they play baseball, they play softball. It's community oriented, it has churches, it has businesses, it has people that care, it has people that helps people. I had friends of mine from Las Vegas that got in an airplane and went to Houston, Texas, and from there they went to Florida, and now they're going to Puerto Rico. These are people, these are great Americans. To have this happen in a city like Las Vegas, any city, but a city like Las Vegas, it's just staggering. When you listen to those shots, it just gets to the core of who we are as Americans. And you know, Bill, I was thinking, this man now is dead, and look at the changes of lives that this reckless, evil act has caused forever. My son's friends, the first thing Breton said to me is all he thought about was, will we see our children again? They will live with this for the rest of their life and the terror that it brought. And we see how wonderful the police are and the first responders that saved the lives and continue to protect our citizens.
It's only 6:24 in the morning there, and that city is waking up to a whole new world. Bob, thank you for your commentary there. Bob Massey, live in Las Vegas. So this is what we know, Sandra. Stephen Paddock, age 64, Mesquite, Nevada, up the road about 85 miles, right along the Arizona border there. No derogatory information. That was the comment from the sheriff, meaning that there was very little, if any, illegal interactivity between police and this killer, who took his own life as the SWAT team was bearing down in that room on the 32nd floor. Inside, they found 10 rifles inside the room and God knows how much ammunition. And the undersheriff there told us 10 minutes ago he believes that he knocked the glass out of the window in order to get a line of sight on the 22,000 who were gathered 32 floors below. Just chilling.
And unbelievable. On the ground, they're still searching for anybody who still might be need help. Over 400 people have been transported to area hospitals there, Bill. Blood is needed. If you're in the area, they are asking you to please go donate blood. The Laborers Union even offering up their facility to go in and donate blood. We're going to bring in Chief Correspondent Jonathan Hunt. He is in Las Vegas for us. He's right near the Mandalay Bay Resort and the Tropicana, where many concert goers are holed up right now. Jonathan, I can't imagine the fear these people went through, and now they're in these hotels and not supposed to leave.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary scene in Las Vegas. You know the phrase, the city that never sleeps, maybe more associated with New York, but Vegas really is the city that never sleeps. And even at 6:30 on a Monday morning, as it is here, you would expect these streets to be pretty busy with noisy revelers returning from the long nights out that are part of the Vegas experience. Now, people are walking around clearly in shock. They are walking very, very quietly along these streets. The Mandalay Bay Hotel is a couple of blocks behind me there. That, of course, the scene of last night's horror. And then as you come forward here, you can see the police cordon. There was on the street in front of us here, on the Strip, a body a short time ago. To the left is the Tropicana Hotel. A lot of the thousands who escaped the concert went to the Tropicana. Many are still in there. Police officers are still interviewing them, trying to find out if anybody can give them any information that may be useful in this investigation. And obviously there are families and friends still being reunited in there, and you can just imagine the emotion of that. A couple of 100 yards down to my right, we can't quite get an angle on it right now, curiously to some extent, Sandra, is a police car with its lights flashing, and next to that car, as we walked past it, is a single body covered in a white cloth. Now, why that particular body is still there, I cannot say. It's about a half-mile in total from the Mandalay Bay. It would appear to have been somebody who was probably injured during that mass shooting, made it as far as this, and then sadly passed away there. But again, why that particular body has not yet been moved, I can't say. Now we get to the investigation, of course, Sandra. Everybody in Vegas, and obviously everybody across the country, wants an answer to the simple question, or what one would hope would be a simple question, is why. But it's clearly proving to be more complicated than that. When we see an act of Islamic terrorism, for instance, it's pretty easy for all of us to understand. Islamic radicals who want to kill Americans. We don't have anything in this man's background, according to the police at this point, that generates any kind of motive in their view. So this is going to be a difficult investigation. Obviously, they'll be combing every single one of his personal records, his online presence, etc., looking for anything that might give a clue why he carried out this meticulously planned attack. He was up on the 32nd floor. He had something like 10 rifles in there with him. He had built platforms. He had a camera system. He'd been there since last Thursday. Obviously, this was something that he planned out down to the last detail, including a camera which would warn him when the police were approaching his room, so that he could apparently take his own life. So many questions to be answered now. And from what the police are saying at the moment, Sandra, this is going to be a long and difficult investigation. Sandra?
The governor of Nevada, Jonathan, calling this a tragic and heinous act of violence that has shaken the Nevada family. Our prayers are with the victims and all affected by this act of cowardice. Talking about the city itself, the airport there was temporarily shut down. Any word on whether that is fully operational again?
Well, planes are certainly going in and out of McCarran Airport here in Las Vegas right now. But the city, as I say, is eerily quiet for Las Vegas. And I have been in this city at pretty much every hour of every day. And it is just not normal right now, as you would not expect it to be after what is, of course, now, if it is confirmed that there are more than 50 dead, the worst mass shooting in modern American history. So it's going to take a long time for people to process this. Las Vegas clearly is not going to be the Las Vegas that everybody knows for quite some time. This is an extraordinary tragedy, as the governor has rightly said, and something that people are going to have to process. They want those answers as to why. That is always a help in moving forward, but it doesn't look as though we're going to get those instant answers that everybody wants so badly right now, Sandra.
Jonathan Hunt, thank you.
If he checked in last Thursday, he knew over a 3-day concert what time the music began every evening and what time it ended. And that's when he chose his moment to strike. The last performer of the night playing the last song of the 3-day concert. Jody Suarez was one of 22,000 in that crowd, and she described what she saw this way.
Everything was fine, and then we heard 2 pop noises and thought it was a sound system, and then he kept continuing like nothing was wrong, and then we heard it continue, and he still was going, and then he fell.
He dropped and ran. He just ran off the stage, and then people started dropping to the floor, and then we were running out.
And then we ran out, and we saw some victims that were shot, and then we just kept running until we got to the cops.
That was Jody Suarez on camera. She's now on telephone. Jody, good morning. How are you doing?
We're hanging in there.
I can only imagine.
It was a crazy night.
Where were you?
For sure. We had the VIP tickets. We were all in the VIP center, and I was with my parents, my cousins, and my best friend, and my sister was actually in the crowd. And my sister said when she was in the crowd, a girl next to her got shot in the head. And that's when they ran out of there. And we all, when we first, it was 6 pops, and it was just bam, 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 bam. And we all thought it was part of the show maybe because it sounded like firecrackers almost. And then all of a sudden it was another round, and we were like, okay, we need to get out of here. So we ran as fast as we could, and we made it to the Tropicana, and then just people in a panic start yelling, there's a shooter in the Tropicana. So then we ran to Hooters, and they said there was a shooter in Hooters. It was just absolute, chaos. And then we finally made it into a little diner where an off-duty police man was in there, and he said, okay, we're putting this on lockdown, and we stacked all the tables and chairs up and covered the windows, and just basically were sitting ducks waiting till we could leave. And my sister, she's a emergency nurse, she stayed behind to help those who were injured.
It's almost as if the way you describe it, you all recognize the seriousness of the situation instantly and together at the same moment.
Yeah, and luckily for us, is me and my family did a really good job at, staying together. There was a moment where me and my best friend were running, and all of a sudden my parents were gone, and in my mind, I thought, oh, my parents are gone. And then, just making those phone calls to your friends, wondering if you're ever going to see them again. Oh, it's not something, you see all this stuff going on all the time.
How long were you separated, do you think, Jody?
We were separated for probably about 30 minutes, and we got a hold of each other, and we told them we were at the Tropicana, so they headed over to the Tropicana. That's when they said there was a shooter in Tropicana, so we ran to Hooters where they were at, and then they ended up at the Tropicana. And then we all made it back to Hooters, and that's when we...
Give us a sense of how much ground does that cover from one hotel to the other, to the next?
We actually, by the time we were done running, we made it to the airport, and I looked it up this morning because I was like, I don't even know how we ran so fast and made it so far. And we looked up, it was about like 7, 8 miles of just running, and you're in a panic, and, all of us, every little sound we hear now, we're all just on the edge of our seats looking around like, what's going on?
Were you able to locate where the shots were coming from?
Well, they sounded, it was so loud, so we really didn't know. You could tell it was kind of coming from up higher. It wasn't coming from, like, the floor. So we did know it was, people were saying it was up on top of the Mandalay Bay. So we did know it was up high, and that's almost, I think, what was a little worse. You didn't know where it was exactly coming from.
Had you attended on Friday or Saturday, or was Sunday your first and only?
No, I've been going to this festival for the past 3 years. And it's sad that this is, I probably will never go back just for fear. I'm terrified to go to another concert ever again. It's horrible.
So you've been going to Vegas for the last 3 years specifically for this show?
Yes. Yeah. Specifically, we drive out from California every year for this festival, and we were staying at Mandalay Bay. We're at a friend's house in Vegas. Luckily, I have a friend that lives here, so we're off the strip far away, but all of our stuff, our cars, everything's at Mandalay Bay, so we don't know how long we're going to be stuck here.
Well, the sun is expected to come up at exactly 6:37 a.m. your time, which is 2 minutes from now. And you're waking up to a whole new town and a whole new world and a whole new situation that folks like you had no expectation going into an event like this. And are you able to absorb
what is going on? You have friends there. You don't know if all your friends are okay. Luckily, like I said, all of my family made it out, and we all were able to stick together.
Thanks for sharing your story, and good luck back in California. You're gonna need it. Jody Suarez,
thank you.
My best to you and your friend and your parents as well.
My dad's a big fan of you.
Oh, well, you tell him we said hello from New York City, okay? And we're sending you our very best, all right? To the great American Southwest. You bet. Jody, thanks.
We're glad Jody's okay. All right, well, let's get back to Adam Housley. He's outside the Mandalay Bay Hotel right now. We know the shooter was up on the 32nd floor firing down at tens of thousands of people. Adam, as the sheriff confirmed, 22,000 to be exact.
Yeah, Sandra, and that witness says a couple of things that we're finding out, too, the people we've been talking to throughout the evening and have been texting with. A number of them now have sat down, and it's starting to sink in. Another individual used the same words that she used. Said an intern that we've had in our office said that, she kind of sat down and just started sobbing, realizing after she was interviewed by authorities that, this had taken place. Also, we do know, you heard from her as well, that last guest, that they went 6 or 7 miles. People moved significant distances very quick. And the bodies, the reason why we do know those bodies were found down the street from here, 3 near us, about a quarter-mile away, 1 over by Tropicana, it was because those people were being taken away with the idea their lives could be saved, and once that was realized that it could not, they could not be saved, they would not go any further. It happened at least 4 times that we know, and we've been told possibly more. The picture really that's worth 50 lives is the one we've been waiting for as the sun came up this morning here. I'm going to step away. Took a look at the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel. You will see 2 holes in windows with curtains flapping in the wind. It shows you that those windows do not open. It shows you that one of those 2, we don't know which one, maybe both, were used by the gunman to fire down onto the people below. And you can see there is no obstructions. It is a absolute wide open shot. As we all knew, unfortunately, throughout the evening and into early this morning as the numbers continued to grow. We first were told it was 2, and then we met a man on the street who was a Los Angeles Fire Department, member of the fire department in Los Angeles County, and he told us that he had pronounced at least 20 dead. Then we were told there was 20, and now it's 50, and first it was 30 or 40 injured, now it's 400. Those numbers are going to continue to fluctuate, Sandra. I'm looking now into the festival site from my location here, and if photographer Eric can pull out and come back down, you can see some of the investigation that's going on. You can see some folks inside there. Looks like maybe federal law enforcement by the way the shirts they're wearing. There's still police here in tactical gear on the outside, just outside that's this lot where the concert took place, and you can also see the stage is still there. The fabric on either side still flapping in the wind. That's where Jason Aldean was performing, and we do know the mass of people that was down in front of the stage. And now that we know where those windows are, you couldn't see it at night. Now that the light from the sun is hitting the side of the Mandalay Bay Hotel, you can see where those windows are located, and very clearly those windows have a direct and straight shot right down into that area in front of the stage. And that's where the gunfire came from, guys.
And Adam, that's what we're waiting to hear more about. We're told the next Las Vegas Police Department presser will be happening at about 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And we look forward to some sort of update as to the shooter's check-in. The police confirmed he checked in 4 days ago, Thursday, September 28th. They did not know at that time whether or not he had been coming and going from that hotel room, whether or not he had just locked it off from anybody being able to access and did come and go. That certainly will be a big question as we await an update from the Las Vegas police.
Absolutely. And standing here this morning, we've been out here since 10-something last night when this first started. It's pretty chilling to look up there. I mean, obviously we've seen bodies, we've seen talk to people with blood all over them that were trying to help anybody they could. But to see those windows blown out like that, and knowing what we know now, that's where all that gunfire came from. I mean, those people had no chance. That's what one of the witnesses we interviewed at one point was law enforcement and said to me, there was no chance. I mean, it was basically shooting fish in a barrel. And it's just, it was chaos. It's more of a, I think the point now it's starting to sink in. It goes back to where we started this live report with the referencing the guest you just had and about how she sat down and sobbed. And we're starting to hear that story from others who survived this as the sun comes up and it starts to sink in. They've been interviewed, they've talked to their loved ones, and they realize that, they were one of the lucky ones. And people are starting to come back too. You're seeing people, in fact, Eric, who's sitting over here to the right, you're starting to see some people come back. They're allowed to get their cars if they're not too far close to the actual crime scene. You'll see them draped in blankets, draped in jackets, blankets, sheets, that kind of thing from the hotels. They're coming back from over Tropicana's one, and also the Hooters hotels where a lot of them went to. but you're seeing them come back now. And as they come back, you'll see the look on their faces, one of shock. I mean, how could it not be? And I was talking to law enforcement here, Las Vegas PD, and just the look on their faces. They're standing here in awe of what has happened and what this community, and people don't realize that. You come to Vegas, you party on the Strip, you don't realize that there's a massive community here away from Las Vegas Strip that are people that, are like any other city in this country. And those people obviously are dealing with this. Loved ones that were obviously here inside this facility at this concert. And we also know that people came from as far away as Canada, Alaska, and many people were here from Southern California. Los Angeles Police Department is saying 2 of their officers were here and were injured. So the information keeps coming, Sandra. We expect more at that press conference. But now that the sun's up, to see that those windows blown out, it really kind of shows you the perspective of what that shooter had. And they've been telling us from very early on that he had a plan. And as we learn more about when he checked in and the other details, that plan becomes very clear.
All right.
He was here to kill.
Adam Housley, thank you for that update. We'll get back to you shortly.
All right.
So